Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back on our Path 2 series. This one, we are going through the Italian tech tree cruisers. The path to the Amalfi begins today. So you guys know what that means. We are going to be starting at Tier 3, the Giussano. Let's take a look at our commander, shall we? We are running Luigi Sansonetti with Norman Scott and Nikolai Kuznetsov. I know, crazy thought, guys. We are running all base commanders. Oh, what is this? These are all just normal commanders that anybody can get, free to play or not. Yes, I have extremely high level commanders, but other than that, they're all base commanders that anybody can get. I know, crazy. We are running Beyond Range. This is actually kind of funny because we don't need this perk because we're running SAP. I'm a big dum-dum. So we could actually increase our torpedo range or detectability of torpedoes. Either of these is a valid option on these cruisers because we don't have sonar. So you may want to take torpedo detectability. Personally, I'm pretty good at anticipating torpedoes. So I don't feel like I need this particular perk, so I would run the home run skill. Get a little bit more range out of these already ridiculously long range torpedoes for their range or for their tier. And remember, these torps are like sea mines. You just throw them out there in an area that you think somebody may cross at some point in the future and hope for the best. They're less of an offensive weapon, more of a defensive kind of weapon. You just use them if you absolutely have to or for area denial. That's it. But we are running punch through because this thing is insane. I do not recommend subtle manipulations at all. At least not early on. Maybe as we get into higher tiers, the velocities speed up and stuff, but I'm telling you, you do not overpin with these at their current level. So you do not need to reduce their shell fuse time on the AP. Now, we are running punch through, we are running fixated, which again is going to help our shell grouping and main battery dispersion. That's going to help those rounds stick together and be more accurate overall. Now, you could go with fully packed, but early on, you don't really need to because you don't really have any extra consumables or anything. But later in the playthrough, you'll see that I probably do switch over to fully packed for the extra smoke, for the extra plane, that sort of thing. So you're going to need something later on. Whereas right now, the reload is terrible, so we're just trying to get some extra reload out of these things if we can. All right? So, with all of that being said, let's take a look at the stats here. We've got or our loadout. We are running the main battery traverse mod so that we can get these turrets to traverse relatively well, and that does come in handy because these turrets are pretty slow. We are running the SAP mod. We are running the B hull, obviously. We're fully upgraded, but we are running the SAP, so keep that in mind. If you want to run SAP, you choose this particular gun, or if you want to run HE and AP, you've got this particular mod. Now, obviously, one thing that if you do choose the SAP, you still have armor piercing. It is still the same armor piercing that you get with the other. The only difference is your high explosive rounds are swapped out for semi-armor piercing rounds. We'll go over all that in a little bit, but for now, that's the big difference, okay? You also end up with a slightly longer reload because you're using SAP. But trust me, you don't need to set fires with this thing. These are not fire spammy sorts of ships. These are, I'ma punch you in the mouth until you submit sort of ships, okay? And we're going to go over that in some battles throughout this playthrough. I'm actually looking forward to this playthrough, believe it or not. I am not well-versed in the Italian cruisers, okay? I'm just throwing that out there right now. If you guys are joining thinking I'm going to give you all the tips and the tricks for playing these things, I promise you I'm new to the Italian cruisers, so I'm going to be learning as I go. But honestly, SAP and the armor piercing on these things is insane. Their speed, their agility is nuts, okay? Especially early on. Like, these things have been a lot of fun to play so far. But yeah, let's look at our overall loadout. We are running the catapult fighter because obviously you don't have a choice. We have the Italian Unity flag because it kind of looks like a Spartan helmet if you squint just right. And then we're running Type 4 camo because it gives us a little bit better sea detectability range, and we're running incoming fire dispersion. If you are a newer player and you don't have a lot of camos, I highly recommend at lower tiers that you skip using camos. Save camos for your higher tiers. But for me, I've got plenty of extra camos. I've been playing the game for 4 years, so I've got plenty of camos to waste on lower tier ships. So keep that in mind. If you are a newer player, try not to waste your camos on lower tier ships. Okay? Specs. For the survivability, we have 24,000 hit points. We have a 7% damage reduction. For artillery, you have the 152 millimeter 53 caliber and Saldo 1926s. You get 8 of them. There are 4 twin turrets. Okay? The firing range is 14.8 kilometers, which is kind of nutty because at these tiers, that's actually further than a lot of the battleships that you're going to come up against, which is good to know. Reload time, 15.7 seconds. So really bad. For 152 millimeter guns especially, but really bad. Okay, this is heavy cruiser-esque, but I promise you, they make up for their poor reload. All right, these guns are nutty. 180-degree turn time is 30 seconds, which that is with all of the buffs that we did to try to make them faster. Like, remember, we didn't take the aiming systems mod 1, we went for turret traverse, and it's still 30 seconds. So you can tell these are slow turrets. Okay, you need to buff that a little bit at least. All right, AP shell maximum damage 3,240 with a SAP round that can do 3,850. Okay? Keep in mind that that SAP damage is when you get maximum damage out of it. So when you're shooting at lightly armored targets or you hit like superstructure on battleships, but you're not likely to get the full 3,850 per shell. Okay? So keep that in mind. You can, and destroyers, be wary. If I catch you in a destroyer, you're going to have a bad day. All right? Just throwing that out there. Secondaries. 100 millimeter 47 caliber auto 1928. You get 6 of them, reaching out to 3.5 kilometers, reloading in just 6 seconds, firing HE with a maximum damage of 1,500 and a 6% chance to set fires. You read that right. That is literally the exact same stats as an American battleship's 5-inch gun on a light cruiser at tier 3. 6-second reload. You get 1,500 damage per shell hit potentially, and it's a 6% chance to set fire, and it's a 100 millimeter gun. Kind of crazy. Maybe I'm just weird. I don't know. Anyway, torpedoes. You get 533 millimeter Tubo Lanciasluri. Y'all, I know. Italians, I'm just going to go ahead and apologize in the first episode right out the gate. I'm going to butcher everything about your language throughout this entire thing, so I apologize. I do try. I suck at other languages. Y'all know by now. But I'm just letting you know for future reference so that I don't have to apologize, even though I probably will apologize in every single episode. But keep in mind, I am going to butcher your language. I love your language. It's very melodic. I really enjoy your language. I suck at pronouncing things. Period. But torpedoes are very fast reloading because they're only dual launchers. You have 47 seconds. Every 47 seconds, you get these sea mines reloaded and send them out there. That being said, they're relatively weak. 9,000 maximum damage before somebody gets a reduction in torp damage. You know, like if you hit the torpedo blister of any battleships. Torpedo range, though, 8.8 kilometers with this build. Keep in mind, we only had 8 kilometers in the game that you're going to see because we were running the igniter skill, because we didn't have SAP back when I originally played these ships. So keep that in mind. So that's why we had the igniter on, okay? Torpedo speed is 51 knots, some of the slowest torpedoes in the game, and this is a theme that's going to stick around for the end of time. Like, you're going to have the slowest torps on the planet, but the thing about these torps is, again, they reload relatively fast. They're very, very slow, and nobody expects them. You just toss them out there and hope for the best, and if somebody's in the area, you might just actually smack them with them. And it's pretty funny when it happens, because it takes like 3 minutes for these torps to get anywhere where they're close to hitting anything. It's funny. All right, AA defense. You actually have decent AA for the tier. 20mm 65 caliber Beretta 1939s. You get 2 of those, doing 5 damage per second. I know, right? Just let's be real. 5 damage per second, reaching out to just 2 kilometers. Then you have the 20mm 65 caliber Beretta 1935s. You get 8 of those, doing 14 damage per second and reaching out to 2 kilometers. So very close-in air support, or anti-aircraft fire. But then you have the 100mm 47 caliber Auto 1928 dual-purpose secondaries. You get 6 of those, doing 20 damage per second, reaching out to 4 kilometers, which is kind of nutty for the tier. Like getting a 4-kilometer anti-aircraft, up there, it's not going to be that effective, okay? You're still going to get harassed by carriers. You still got to pay attention, dodge their shells. And one of the things that these things are so good at is their agility. Maximum speed, 36.5 knots, right? They are very fast for cruisers. This is no engine boost. This is just straight 36.5 knots right out the gate. But look at the rudder shift. 7 seconds. We have not buffed the rudder at all, right? Nothing that we have done anything towards buffing the rudder. It starts with a 7-second rudder shift. This thing handles like a goddamn destroyer. Has a turning circle of 580 meters, which is insane. Now, I know a lot of the cruisers at lower tiers do have this, but this is a theme that I believe sticks around for quite a while. I'll see as I progress through the line whether or not this changes, but I'm fairly confident that these things retain their agility all the way through the tech tree. Or at least really good agility for their tier, okay, and for their size. The detectability by sea is 8.8 kilometers, which is fantastic for a cruiser. Detectability by air is 5.5. Guaranteed detectability is 2, and the detectability while firing in smoke is a fantastic 4 kilometers. Now, that doesn't really do us a whole lot of good early on, but as you start to go through the line, and you get, well, the very next ship gets smoke, a rolling smoke screen, this becomes a very valuable tool for your get-out-of-jail-free cards. Okay? Statistics. We'll get into this real quick. I have not played these ships a lot. So, again, this shows that I'm brand new to the ship. But look at the overall performance. We've played 2 battles. I know. Small sample size. But 50% win rate. Not bad. Not great. We lost the first battle. Won the second. We won the first battle. Lost the second battle. But 53% main gun accuracy. 53%, despite not running Aiming Systems Mod 1. That's why I went with the turret traverse. Get those turrets to traverse a little bit quicker and use my commanders to help me with the accuracy and my skills. Okay? Fantastic accuracy out of these things. Decent shell velocity. Like, these things are nasty. Okay? I've killed 7 ships in 2 games. In a cruiser. Alright? Keep that in mind. Warships destroyed on average 3.5 per game. The damage to ships, keep in mind, this is a tier 3. My average damage in this thing is 64,000. Alright? We tearing people up. The XP, 1,615 base XP at a tier 3 average. That's kind of crazy. And then, of course, the potential damage really high for a cruiser at this tier as well. 559,000 on average. And, of course, you can see the highest battle achievements if you're looking for spoilers on the game that you're about to see. All right, fore and aft armor. Okay, it's a tier 3 cruiser. We can all agree that it doesn't have armor, okay? It's got the same no armor bow that you come to know and love. 13 millimeters, gets overmatched by literally pretty much everything. I'm fairly confident that anything, I mean, we can do the math real quick. I'll just do the math. It is, if you guys forget about overmatching, the math is whatever your armor thickness, so in this case 13 millimeters times 14.3, that gives you 185.9 millimeter guns that overmatch. So basically, heavy cruisers and above. Anything larger than like 7 inches, 7.5 inches and above is going to go right through your bow. All right, but what I will say is, this thing and most Italian cruisers have a sneaky little belt. And this catches people off guard, especially at higher tiers. These things can actually angle relatively well, even against battleships. Now, obviously, you still got the overmatchable upper plating, but look at the belt. If people are going for those cheeky citadels, if people are going for those sneaky, cheeky citadels, where they're like, I'm going to shoot at the middle of the ship and look at the waterline, and you angle, and remember, these things have fantastic agility. It doesn't take long for you to close that angle and make sure that those shells bounce. You can and will bounce battleship shells in these Italian cruisers. And that is one of the most underrated aspects of these Italian cruisers. Their ability to make battleships look stupid is pretty hilarious. It would rival my own favorite, the American cruisers. Y'all know I love my American cruisers. My American cruisers can't make a lot of battleships look stupid up close because once you get the decent armor, then you get overmatched by 16-inch guns anyway, and most of the guns that you go up against are 16-inch guns. But these things have pretty nasty little cheeky side armor that catch a lot of battleships off guard, and if you give these things an opportunity, they will ruin your battleship. All right? And don't forget about the landmines, or the sea mines, I should say. All right? Other than that, I mean, it's pretty standard, you know, for most. You've got a citadel. Hello? You've got a raised citadel, so if you do get caught broadside and they go through, you're going to get hurt. If you get caught from range and they go through that upper side plating, they're going to be plunging straight down into that citadel. You're going to get hurt. Use your agility, use your speed, keep your distance, and angle well. These are all things that you need to learn if you want to excel in these lines, in these particular Italian lines, okay? Or at least that's my experience so far. Now, again, very small sample size. I'm not claiming to be an Italian cruiser expert, but I'm telling you, I am enjoying this line so far. And I've already played this one and the Tier 4, and I'm loving both of them. So I can't wait to play the higher tiers as well. All right, they have come a long way since the garbage HE that couldn't do anything. All right, that SAP made all the difference. The rolling smoke screens make all the difference. These things have come alive, boys. I'm telling you. All right, so hidden, good concealment. We already talked about that. SAP, we already talked about that. Remember, they can't set fires, but they get more penetration with their HE, meaning you can pin some of that upper armor, especially superstructure. If a battleship's over-angled or if you're shooting at a bow, you can hit that superstructure, get some pretty nasty, sneaky damage into superstructures, okay? Also, bow side plating, upper side plating, if you can hit that. Now, that's a little bit odd because if you're trying to hit the upper side plating, it's pretty narrow on a lot of battleships, and a lot of times your shells are going to hit that belt. If you hit the armor belt of a battleship with SAP, you're just going to shatter. So pay attention to what your shells are doing. If they're shattering, aim higher, aim for something a little bit more weak armor. If they're not shattering, you're going to be chunking people, even with SAP. And if they go full broadside, use that AP, because the AP on these things slap. All right? Compromising. Higher caliber AP shells may overpen the armor, but may still arm depending on shell velocity. Again, because they have that extra little bit of thickness there, you can angle pretty well against battleships if you're paying attention, but if you get caught, it's a pretty quick trip back to port if you're not careful, because you will arm their shells and you will die. Fortunately, at lower tiers, most of the battleship captains haven't figured out that they can hit the button to switch it over to AP yet, so with that in mind, you're probably going to do okay at lower tiers. The Giussano, a light cruiser built as part of the first series of condottieri. I know, I apologize. Again, here we go. The Giussano was built to counter the French large contre-torpilleers. Oh my god, I just butchered 2 languages in 1 sentence. I'm sorry. The ship boasted a high speed and good set of armament for her size, which came at the expense of poor armor protection. You say poor armor protection, but that belt protection is pretty nice in a pinch. She entered service 1931, and there were 4 of them in the series. All right, let's take a look at this thing. I mean, for the year, remember this is like 1928, I think, is when it came into service, so it is kind of a later era. But, I mean, for the time, it looks pretty modern. I mean, it's a pretty good-looking ship. I don't like how much they set up out of the water, and that's why their citadel is so raised. Like, these could do to sit a little bit lower in the water, in my opinion. But overall, they're pretty good-looking ships. And, boy, are they a lot of fun to play. At least low tiers so far, I'm enjoying the crap out of them. Of course, low tiers are pretty easy to play in general. But with all of that being said, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Ring. We're in the Giussano, and we are top tier. What does all this mean? It means we're in for a good time. So right off the bat, we're going to try to push the flanks. These things actually excel on the outside edges. So if you spawn on an edge, take it. Take the edge, push around, try to get those side shots, those flanking shots, those crossfires that we always talk about. You will be surprised how effective these ships can be at medium to long range, especially against anything battleship related. They're going to have a hard time hitting you if you're paying attention. But up close and personal, cruisers, destroyers, they don't really stand a chance. Okay? Now, obviously, you're still a cruiser. You still have a limited number of hit points. You're going to be in a war of attrition, taking those hits if you're getting into a lot of battles throughout the course of a game. Alright, so we don't have heals to bail us out. We don't have a smoke screen to bail us out. At some point, we are going to have to play a little bit smarter. But this game in particular is going to be a ridiculous game from start to finish. We are going to absolutely dominate every facet of this game, and we're going to make some mistakes along the way. And that is why I love these Path 2 series. Now, don't get me wrong. The Path 2 series is a series that I normally try to be at, you know, a pretty solid understanding of the ships so that I can give you guys the best possible idea. And you can see right there, we land a penetrating hit on a Kaiser at that range over the top of every mountain known to mankind. But notice we're spotted before we come out from around the island. It's not the Wyoming spotting us, so we're going to go ahead and load up the SAP in anticipation for one of the destroyers to potentially spot us here. Now, one of the things that you have to learn as a cruiser, if you do not have sonar, is anticipating the torpedoes of the enemy destroyers. We know roughly where he's at, so we're going to continue to put our bow towards the enemy destroyer, at least in the general direction. Now notice we shattered. See the little shatter icon? We shattered every round that we hit that battleship with. And that's when the Clemson pops up. And lo and behold, he got a little too aggressive, shot his torps before he was ready. But remember, if I remember correctly, Clemson has torpedoes on both sides of his ship, so you got to be careful. He can launch off one side, flip around, launch off the other side. We are charging his smoke, and there they are. So keep in mind, especially at lower tiers, destroyers launch a lot of torpedoes, okay? They have very quick reloads. So you got to be on your toes if you don't have sonar. Speaking of on your toes, we didn't get spotted there. We've got an Isokazi coming up, so we're going to get ready to shoot him. And watch what happens next. As we get spotted, the little turd burglar to my left is actually sitting in his smoke screen. This guy clearly does not understand what is coming at him. Now, first shot out, we only hit this guy with 2 shells, but we took a third of his health. Look at the incredible agility. We slow down, we turn in, we dodge those torps from point blank, and now this man is in trouble. Watch this shot. Bonk. Half his health gone. That was just the front guns. So we're going to swing out, we're going to get the rear guns involved. He's going to try to turn away, but you're just done. Like, we just took all the rest of his health, and it's just a matter of time before we finish him off again. Now, the Isokazi also shot at us, but we're about to finish him. Our secondaries hit him a couple times, too. We're now going to turn out, or turn in, towards the enemy Isokazi. The Isokazi understands that he needs to run away. Unfortunately for him, what he doesn't understand is, I'm almost as fast as he is. So, the fact that he was close enough to be spotted to begin with is not going to end well for him, because you cannot deal with SAP in a destroyer. Unlike AP, you can't angle against it. It's going to annihilate you. No matter where it hits, it's going to arm, it's going to detonate. It is more penetration than HE, so it's going to actually pen, and it's going to do nasty damage. SAP on destroyers is disgusting. And this little Isokazi has already found out by a couple of rounds hitting him that, you know, this isn't a fight that he wants. But he decides to engage me with HE again, and we go ahead and reach out and punch him right in the mouth. 3 penetrations again. Remember, these are full pins. They're not over pins. This is SAP pinning and doing pretty much full damage. It's not full damage, but it is a lot of damage per shell hit. And of course, we're spotted, but we're spotted because of the enemy battleships and cruisers that are over in the cap. We are trying to get rid of these little turds. When we have the opportunity, we've got the speed, we need to chase these guys down. Now here, we're going to turn out after we've already went dark. We don't want to fire our guns blindly because he'll get us spotted. So we turn away from our last known position. He's going to launch the torpedoes where he thinks that I am, and we've already dodged where he is at. Now he comes out from behind the screen. I figured he wasn't going to sit in the smoke screen, so we launched a plane hoping to spot him on the other side of the smoke screen, but he comes out anyway, and we're already in the perfect position to take advantage of it. We knew he wasn't going to sit in the smoke screen. Now we are getting shot by an enemy cruiser that's nearby. So we're going to try to finish this little turd off. We do actually finish him off with 3 pins from the front guns. And now, because we're going up against this Wyoming, we're going to go ahead and finish shooting the SAP at him. We're going to load up the AP for the cruiser battle. We've got an enemy Iwaki out here. And I'll be honest, the Iwaki is one of those ships that has always kind of baffled me as a battleship because they always overpin an Iwaki. They have a lot of fast-firing torpedoes. It's basically the cruiser equivalent of a kamikaze. Like, the thing just reloads torpedoes constantly and just seems to always be in a position to shoot them. Now, here, you're going to see it a medium-range engagement versus a cruiser. First shot out, not the best in the world. We did actually overpin him with the AP. But that's because we hit too high. Once I get my aim on target, and sometimes this takes a while, guys. When you're in a new ship, sometimes this takes a while. But watch this. I am not worried about these torps at all. Why? Because I have all the agility in the world. I can slow down, speed up as needed, and dodge these torpedoes no problem. The Iwaki's actually doing a pretty good job of landing shells. You can see I am looking at the Wyoming. We're going to go ahead and put some torps out in his general direction just in case. Again, not particularly scared of the Iwaki, but just keeping my head on a swivel, trying to pay attention to what everybody else is doing. Here we finally get our aim right, and blow! All his health gone. That is the power of these freaking armor-piercing rounds. When you get them on target and you figure out just how much lead you need on a angled or broadside cruiser, it is devastating. Now here he's going to start to modulate his speed a little bit. We overfire him or overlead him, and he's going to dodge. But again, it's just a matter of time. Like, we just took all your health in one salvo. It's just a matter of time before we manage to figure out what you're doing and finish you off. Now here, again, sneaky little torpedoes. Kind of reminds me of being in Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. If you guys know, you know. Like, if you guys like those streams, you know what I'm talking about. Every goddamn ship you come up against has torpedoes that reload, I swear, every 20 seconds. And they just keep launching them forever. But there we catch him on his way back, and he tried to drop smoke, but he was a little too late. Now for the scary part. We have to take on 2 battleships at close range. This is what I call close range, even though this would be technically middle range for this kind of, you know, low-tier fight. This is mid-range, but we're getting into close range. We're almost inside of secondary range at this point. Now, remember, we have slow turrets, but we do have torpedoes, and we're going to try to anticipate where he's at. And again, this is going to come down to my inexperience. We're going to go with SAP here. We get a decent chunk. That shows you 3 full penetrations of the SAP on the side of that angled battleship. Aiming high, getting into that bow or that upper side plating, getting into that superstructure. That's where you want to be hitting. If you have to, bow side plating also works because generally it's thin enough that you can pin that as well. But you're looking for the weaker armor. You don't want to be hitting thick armor with it because you're going to shatter and you're not going to do anything, and you cannot set fires with SAP. So you've got to be trying to hit that superstructure. Here we've already switched over to AP because, again, that's what I do know is really good. And you can see we get a decent result out of that, knowing to shoot the superstructure. And then we're going to switch back over to the SAP. Now here, I was hoping those torpedoes would hit their target. But again, they are very slow. Any change of course, and you can see the secondary, or he's actually firing HE at us, which is my favorite kind of battleship guy when I'm in a freaking cruiser. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy when they shoot HE at me. But watch the torpedoes, bonk. Yeah, they don't do a lot of damage, but it is a huge, huge boost to our overall. Now we've already killed 3 ships. We've killed 2 destroyers and a glorified, oversized destroyer. Kaiser's gonna shoot at us. We're gonna be able to dodge those because German battleship. And we finish him off with some SAP, no problem. The Wyoming, in his haste, has managed to run aground, and I thought that he was going to back up here. So you can see I actually put the torpedoes out behind. I thought he was going to get stuck. He actually does not get stuck. He gets to scrape through the island. But we aim high, and look at the chunks. 3 full pins again. That's the SAP coming in real clutch. Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about how broken SAP is, that it doesn't work. I'm telling you, if you hit these rounds where you're supposed to, even on armored targets, like if you find the weak point that you can pin, these freaking SAP rounds are disgusting. They really are. Like, you're getting full pins against HE, or against superstructures of battleships. Alright? You can annihilate cruisers and destroyers with them. But I prefer against cruisers to use the AP because, as you've seen, I mean, we just citadel the snot out of any cruiser we come up against at these tiers. But Wyoming is about to go down, and he gets his damage control off just in time. We take a shot at him, and we are going to finish him off, hitting that superstructure and pulling off the Kraken. But look at the score, boys. This is where I start to make mistakes. Okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm grabbing the cap. I'm trying to switch this around. I'm trying to make sure that we put ourselves in a position. I am not relying on my teammates to win this battle for me. We take a shot over the island. I'm thinking SAP on the carrier should be pretty solid. Remember, they're lightly armored, especially at lower tiers. They don't have the armored deck or anything like that. So if at lower tiers, the SAP is going to be nasty, and I am correct in that assumption. But there's also 2 cruisers, and judging by the skill level of this particular carrier, I'm not sure that I made the right choice here. I knew that I could easily kill the carrier. We load up the AP, and watch what happens. First shot, he's angled. We're like, okay, we can punch this guy. Unfortunately, because there's such a high velocity round, they've got a very flat trajectory, making aiming easier over long distances. We couldn't clear the island. But watch coming around the corner here. We're about to be shot by the enemy St. Louis. But we can't really attack him directly because we've got other things that we have to do. Now here's where our battleship behind us, and we get 2 citadels on the carrier, by the way. We fire at the St. Louis. We're not expecting to citadel a St. Louis. The citadel on a St. Louis is almost impossible to get. Even with battleships, it's very difficult to citadel a St. Louis. They're just very tanky. But that being said, watch how long it takes me to finish this guy off. Why does it take me so long to finish this guy off? I'm getting full pins on this guy, and I'm not citadeling him. But in my mind, I'm like, I could citadel him at any point and finish him off. No, you're not. There's a citadel, yes. But watch how long it takes me. We've fired, what, 4 salvos at him at this point? If we just switch to the SAP, sorry, not HE. If we switch to the SAP a little sooner, we finish this guy off. Because watch, as he gets further and further away, we're not able to get the penetration at this angle to go through and citadel this man. Look at that. We're hitting the deck. We're hitting, you know, we're not able to get that. We're getting plunging fire rather than getting the shots through the side armor into the citadel. But it takes me forever to finally decide to do so. Now, I know the cruiser's coming back to fight me. But watch, I'm still fighting, and I'm like, okay, we've got to switch over to SAP real soon here. We are struggling to finish off this Langley. We've now got the cruiser coming after me, and in my mind, if I can finish this Langley, we win this fight, right? That's my goal. I've already fought one Awaki. I should be fine to deal with the other one relatively quickly. The Langley had started to slow down. He's modulating his speed. The Awaki's actually doing a really good job of landing shells on target. But we get a shot of SAP out. We're able to finish him in pretty quick succession. Notice here, I'd already damaged control. He breaks my rudder. This is what cost me my life. I can't dodge. I can no longer get out of the way. We take a shot. I didn't lead him enough. We hit too far aft. We get penetrations, we get overpins, we don't finish him off, he manages to kill us. So despite us pulling off a 6-pack and darn near 100,000 damage in a tier 3 light cruiser with a terrible reload, we end up losing this match because I failed to get away. If he doesn't break my rudder there, I am 100% confident that I would have again been able to kill that Iwaki, and then that would have been a 7-piece. But my overconfidence, I did need to grab, I needed to kill the carrier. If I switch to SAP sooner to finish that carrier off, I have more guns ready to go when the enemy Iwaki shows up, and we are able to probably kill that man, no problem. But ifs and buts don't win battles. Speaking of not winning battles, low-tier gameplay at its finest right here. We have a battleship commander, probably his first time in the Wyoming. I mean, Wyoming is literally the very first battleship you get for the American line. And he's firing HE at the broadside of a cruiser. And unfortunately, he's also sailing in a straight line, and he's going to eat a torpedo because of it. But the worst part is, we're less than a minute, and he needed to kill that guy in order to win. If he kills that guy, we win the fight. Unfortunately, he's not able to kill that guy, so we are, in fact, going to lose this fight, which is an absolute heartbreaker. But it's to be expected at these lower tiers. Again, players don't know what they're doing, right? Like, the reason we were able to put up a 6-pack and almost 100,000 damage is because we went up against a bunch of newer players that don't know what they're doing. The ship itself is fantastic, and when you know what you're doing, you can take the most advantage of each situation. We make one mistake towards the end of the fight. You can say 2 mistakes, and unfortunately that leads to the loss. So what I want you guys to take away from this is that, yes, these ships are incredibly good. Yes, I am a newer player in these ships, but I am also an experienced player that knows how to use the different ammo types to my advantage, right? 94,000 damage, Kraken Unleashed 6-pack. Almost 2,000 base XP and a loss at tier 3. That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of XP for the tier. So let me know what you guys think. Are you excited for the rest of this line? I know I personally am. I can't wait to see how good these cruisers are as I progress through the tech tree. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.